Sweet. So, obviously on my board here, first of all, we're going to do our head sheets and we're going to run through the overall process. So one side of my heads I'm going to do as the bob, one side of my heads I'm going to do as the graduation. Okay. But firstly, if we go closer, we can see this thing here. Now, everyone remember this is being our elevation chart. Okay. So seeing what our elevation does and what elevation does for us. So starting on 0 degrees is our heaviest form of graduation, which is our line. As soon as you lift everything off of 0 degrees, you start to remove weight from the head. Okay, so anything from 0 degrees into 90 degrees, you find is graduation, where the hair is stacking on top of one another. So the hair is getting longer and longer as it goes up to hit down onto that certain point. Okay, anything from 90 degrees and above, we know removes weight. So that is where your layering comes in, your layering techniques, where you're taking bulk or taking weight out of somebody's hair. Okay, so where we start working with our line work is going to be all down on 0 degrees. So we don't want to be cutting the hair with any form of elevation at all. Okay, so primarily if we start to work the hair in our fingers, we've got a finger's width of elevation. So we're going to get a finger's width of outline graduation at the very, very end. So it's the same if you're working with a line below shoulders or a line above shoulders, the same process happens. So you're going to find that you get something really quite untidy and a little bit unneat. Okay, hopefully that will make sense. It does. We're going to go through that again when we're back in salon. So starting with my guest facing the opposite way, we're going to have our central section. And the head is going to, or the sections are going to be ever so slightly curved as we come up to the top of the ear. Hopefully you can all see that. I know there's a big glare on the screen. Then we're going to choose our length and we're going to run the length down into that point. And then everything is going to come down into that one section. Okay. Who remembers, can you see down here? Can. What are the bones called in our head? So what's the bone at the center back of our head called? Anyone remember? I've got the chat bar open, so if you want to run it in the chat bar, you can. What's this big central bone at the back of our heads called? Doth anybody remember through the Christmas break? Skull. It is the skull. Good Jesus. It's a point on the skull, so it's a big bit jutting out of the skull. What's the name of that bone? Anybody remember? Begins with O. No. Occipital bone. It's called your occipital. So OCCIPITAL bone. Okay. What that does, well done, let's go occipital. Sweet. Did you get that after I said that? Or was you typing that in? But anyway, good, well done. The occipital bone is bang center in the back of your head and it connects or is parallel to your spine. Okay. So it's quite important to know the symmetry of your body. So when you've got the spine and the occipital bone both sit together, then you've got two bones behind your ears, one in here and one in there. Anyone know what they are called? Can anyone remember what these two bones here are called?
Does it begin with an O?
What?
Does it begin with an O?
No, that was the first one.
No. Yeah, that's what I meant, sorry.
M and P.
Does it begin with an R?
M and P, not the temporal.
No.
Sorry, it's the mastoid process.
Oh, that one.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
The mastoid process bones run parallel with your shoulder blades. Okay? So if we ding a big line down from our mastoid process, it hits our shoulder blade area. Okay? So that will make sure that everything internally in this zone is all parallel with one another, whether you're above the shoulders or whether you're below the shoulders. Okay, so when we're working a line below shoulders, we work everything in between the shoulder blades and our balance will be perfect. Then anything past the shoulder blades, work in the sides as we did in level 2, and that will clean your work up. The same thing happens above shoulders. Okay, so anything in between your mastoid process, cut at the back. Anything past your mastoid process, cut in the side. I promise you, every single time your balance will be perfect. Okay, also in between your mastoid process bones, so in between the back of your head, it's quite flat. Okay, only past these bones did your head start to round off quite considerably. So focus your attention in the middle and then get that balance. When we come to the sides, we can guide ourselves in. Your balance will always be perfect, I promise you. Okay, so let's do it. Let's have a little look. So my section, we've gone from crown to the top of the ear, and my central section down the back of the head. Okay, and we're now going to flow our line. This is the most difficult haircut to do, which is why I wanted to cover it again today. All right, so nice and wet through, and we will begin. So section into the nape and slightly diagonal line as we start to run through. And similarly on the opposite side, diagonal line down. Also, sorry about it all being shut today. Obviously, Kirsty would have told you about it yesterday, but few staff have COVID, so I'm allowed in the room on my own with you guys, so I do apologise. We will be back up and running next week, I am sure of it. So yeah, bear with us just this week. So I would be standing directly in front of you guys now, so I'm not going to do that. I want to make sure that we've got enough visuals for you guys at home, but I would be standing plumb in the back. Okay, most important is that we keep our shoulders flat. So if I start to lean my shoulders down, we're going to drop the balance on both sides. So we've really got to keep our bodies flat. Bend your knees. You're going to feel like a bit of a Burke, but don't worry about that. Okay, also you're going to keep the posture in your back. So by the time you've been doing hair for as long as I have, if you're bending over too much, you're going to find it really difficult after 15 years of hair to actually do hair anymore. Okay, so my mastoid process bones are in here and are in here and in here. So I'm just going to let those areas go. I don't want to be cutting any area in my mastoid process. Okay, I'm just going to cut this central panel in the hair. All right, and I want to go for something slightly curved if I can, because that sets us up later on for when we need to run the line into the front. If it's a bang square line, I've then got to create more of a curve into the front to create that shape. So if we've got a little touch of a curve going on, we then connect it an awful lot easier into the front and keep it as long as we need. Okay, so twist her around and have a little go. So I'm keeping square onto the shape, and I'm going to go in about there with my line and connect. And then again, just to make sure we get all the little straggly ends away from my line. Okay, so my baseline is in, my guide is there, and now we're going to move on. So I'm leaving out any area past my 2 bones on the back of the head. Okay, section angle stays the same on both sides, and we are going to progress. So section number 2, again, mastoid process pieces, leave those out. We'll tackle those later. And the reason I leave these out, I could never do it when I was training. I could never get a strong balanced bob. And I asked everybody why, and no one could tell me why. No one knew. They were saying my sections were off or something like that. But you get told to stay in the back. But I was leaning round the shape to try and connect that side piece in behind the ear. So I may as well come and stand here. It's pointless. And because her head's forwards, I'm rounding my line up every single time because I'm not focusing on where her head position actually is. So in order to run your shape a little bit cleaner, cut the back where you're standing in the back, and cut the sides where you're standing in the sides. Which makes a lot more sense, but it takes a little bit of time to understand where the hair actually wants to fall. And then when you do, your bobs will be perfect, okay? So again, nice and clean, and move on to my third section, which is going to take me to the top of the ear. Again, same piece, and again, same piece, same direction of section.
So wait, you're just cutting the middle bit.
Just,
Cutting.
absolutely, just the middle bit, which is, it sounds weird, doesn't it? Like you want to cut the whole back, but just do the middle bit for now. I promise you it will work perfectly. And then when we come into the sides, you'll understand why we're only cutting that side piece, okay? Oh, the middle piece, sorry, not the side piece. So again, in the middle, down to my guideline and run my shape, okay? So we've got our nice, clean little bit of balance, and all that's a big bit of hair, really, isn't it, that we're leaving out? So seems a bit weird. But now we're going to move in. So now we want to come and connect the sides. So instead of working your shape from your diagonal sections and then all the way up to your crown and then working these vertically, we're going to run the same section all the way through from back to front. So we're going to run my diagonal section all the way into the front. Okay, pin that away and come back to the back. So we're still going to have a lot of hair to cut off this back piece. So down to where my mastoid process goes and run it. Okay. Now you can go both sides at the same time. I prefer to go one side then the other. It's just a personal preference, but do whatever you want to do. But we need to lift the head now and come into the side. Okay. So you want to have a 90-degree angle between the chin and the chest line when you are working your sides. That way on both sides, her head is in the same place. So if she's texted in, lift the chin up or lift the head up, but the chin comes with it, obviously. And then if she's looking up at the ceiling, put her head down, okay? You want to get a 90 degrees between the chin and the chest and push the head slightly away from you so you can really see where your guideline's going to be, okay? Then when we're coming in the sides, we're going to mirror the section with our cutting line. And if we pull down, we can see we've got our guideline in the back. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can see that. But we get our guideline from the back and it runs straight into the front piece. But because our diagonal section is going longer into the front, my line's going to be longer into the front as well. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. But we're going to go. So I would be stood there, but I'm going to move aside so that you guys can see. And we're down, nice and flat, and run that shape all the way in. And make sure we've got all the little hairs underneath. And now we just run that forwards, okay? So round the ears, obviously we do a little tap on the ear or the little pushback technique, whichever one you want to do. But again, we're just running down, nice and flush to the head, nice and flush to the guest, and connect. And again, into the front. Okay? And then we will have a perfect little bob guideline. Hopefully you can see that. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Hopefully you can see. And then we're going to run across the front. Again, it's the same section. And because we now need to come back to the back, head goes forwards. And we're going to come back to our internal area on the mastoid process. So again, run down nice and flat, connect my shape in the back. Make sure that's straight. And then again, lift high, head up, 90 degrees, and connect my back. Seems quite simple, but the most important area for a bob, or the area where most people go a little bit off, is behind the ears. It's that little section of hair from the crown to the radial. Okay, so if you're thinking of the top section of the hair, it's the crown area to the radial, which is the big area that people tend to over direct back. So when it comes down behind the ear, you find there's a little bit of mistakes go on because they over direct too much or not enough, and you don't get left with any hair knocking around. So the hair that you're taking off is going too short or it's going too long. So then your haircut's always going to be off balance. So cut it to where it wants to be and you'll always be fine. Okay, so down again, run the line. And where the hair naturally wants to fall, we allow it to fall.
Rob,
Yo.
just a quick question, sorry. You know, if you're doing somebody with like longer hair, but going into that style bob,
Yeah.
like past the shoulders slightly, I know it's not really a bob, it's long, but that sort of shape,
Yeah.
would you do the same thing?
I personally do. Yeah, I do. Obviously you've got shoulders then to deal with. If you're coming really,
Yeah.
the shoulders are going to give you a bit of a problem, but I would do the same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
I find that a lob is very tricky to do because of the sort of shoulder area in the way, but I do the same technique. I find it works perfectly with the long or short hair. So yes, I would stick to that. Have you got one to do?
I have, yeah, not for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, stick to the same technique. It will work perfectly. But just with your lob, make sure you take it up enough in the back because you've got to almost avoid the shoulder blades, but drop the lob below the shoulders. So you've got to almost run your line just off the shoulder blades and then point it into the front.
And then down, yeah.
Because if it sits on the shoulders, it's going to kick out. So you either go longer or shorter. So I'd say just run it a tad shorter than the shoulder blades around here and then real curve down afterwards. Yeah.
Right, okay.
It's a nice haircut to do. Very nice haircut to do. Well, we'll go for it next week. But if you've not got it in a couple of weeks, we can do that next week.
Yeah.
So that you can run it.
Well, Rob, this is my favourite haircut, and I had a girl that I had to do, and I went in and done something completely different.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why. And I was so pissed off.
Why?
I know why.
Oh, I do know why.
Yeah.
Because Mike
I'm
showed
gonna
you a
make-
different way of doing it.
Mike, the night before, because I had my haircut, and Mike showed us, you know, like when you do the back, like what you've done, and then instead of going around the sides, bringing it back into the back and curving.
Ooh.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's where, I don't mean to swear, but oh my God, I could have cried because
Yeah.
I've gone in and done something that I've just seen once, and it's my favourite cut.
Yeah.
Why I didn't do it that way, I don't know.
Yeah. It's a tricky way to cut hair, that.
You tell me about it.
Yeah. You're taking the hair away from it where it wants to be. It doesn't want to be back here. It wants to be here. So just cut it there. Yeah, that's tricky. And did it not go very well?
It was all right, but to be fair, because I'd done it, I had to then, it weren't sitting how I wanted to sit, so I felt like I had to keep going back in, taking bits off.
Yeah.
It looked a little, it weren't as smooth, you know, like after.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hated it.
That's so good. Yeah, there's a number of ways to do the bobs. There's so many different techniques. And some people swear by their own technique, and some people say stand in one position and don't move, and it's very regimented. To be completely honest, I could never do a bob up until about 3 years ago, and I was terrible at them, and I just found a way to do it myself. So you're going to find ways that don't work for you. You're going to find ways that do work for you, and you just got to run with them, I suppose. But a few people will tell you a few different techniques here, but you've got to find which one works best for you.
Well, that one definitely didn't work for me, so.
Yeah, if I'm completely honest, my technique is best.
No, I agree. And I the thing is, I love doing that. I don't know
Yeah.
what made me not do it that way.
Absolutely. I mean, it's trying new things. If you're trying something new, it's perfectly good. It's good to do and to see just how things actually sit in the real world, because chances are you're going to get haircuts where techniques don't really work for you. But with something like a bob, get something you're confident with and stick to that. Try not changing too much, because it's the changing that will make you feel like you can't do hair anymore. So you've really got to get a comfort zone and stick to your comfort zone. It's the same with color. Like I've got, obviously you guys know I'm not a massive color specialist. It's not my field, but I've got certain colors that I use every single time when I'm either balayaging, then toning, or coming lighter and darker. I've got colors that I use that I don't use anything else, because I know they are my absolute hero products. So when you feel comfortable with something and you know something works, stick to what you know works, and try not to be sidelined into doing something else. I'm sure it looked good. I'm sure it looks very good. So just completing the opposite side. So exactly the same technique, making sure my head is in the right position, making sure her body position would be in the right position if I need to, and just making sure that I am in the right place too. And I'm going to check the balance without you guys seeing it, just to make sure. Perfect. So your balance will always sit perfectly. Okay, it will never ever let you down, because your shoulders are flat, your body's straight, her head's in the same position it needs to be, your diagonal section is the same on both sides, which means your cutting line's the same, and you're balanced off the back. So everything you're doing is running off that very first piece of hair that you cut. The very first section is your balance, and then everything runs from there. Okay, so that is our line. Now, when we're graduating that line, I'm just going to finish my head sheet. So that is on the left-hand side. So that continues up and into here. Everything runs in, and then our overall line sits down flat, and we run slightly shorter and connect. Now, when we graduated bobbed in level 2, or did the bob with graduation in level 2, we worked a very confusing sort of occipital to bone, do that, and then boom, 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 all the way forwards and everything back. That's an easy technique. That's not an easy technique. What I'm talking about. That's not an easy technique. That's a tough technique. This is an easy technique. So this graduation here is how I personally graduate every single person that I do outside of work or in salon. I always work with this graduation technique, because it's fast, it's clean, it works, and it never ever lets you down balance wise. Okay, and you've not got to mess around with loads of sectioning or problems areas or anything like that. So we're going to start again with a section onto the crown to the top of the ear. Okay, so crown to the top of the ear, and again, you all know me by now. Clean sections are absolutely vital when you are working. If you've got longer hair, so I'd say this is longer, and you're working from long to short, when you get to the short looks and your sections are bang clean from long, your work's going to be so much easier. Okay, so section from the crown to the top of the ear, and we're going to focus on this back section here first of all. Okay, so if I shift her out of the way and start on the opposite side of my graduation. So instead of doing the occipital bone and the pivoting section, which takes forever, and your sections are always a little bit untidy, if you're me, I can't ever get the sections in perfectly. We're just going to work little steep diagonal sections all the way forwards into the front of the head. Okay, hopefully you can all see that. And every single section that we work is going to run back into that shape. Okay, so if we're coming onto the opposite side, we're going to run round with these really steep diagonal sections. My elevation on each one of these is going to change. So we're only taking off that first little bit of section number 1, but then section 2, we're going to elevate higher, section 3, higher, 4, higher, 5, higher, 6, higher, until we run out of hair. Okay, so going back onto this, we're going to start with section number 1 in around about what I'd say is 22 degrees. I don't know, I don't really work on degrees. And then we're going to elevate each section a little bit higher and higher and higher. So what in a sense we're doing, whereas our line, everything fell down to the same point. So every single piece of hair came down onto 0 degrees for our line below shoulders. Okay, basically meaning that we are building the maximum amount of weight on our outline for our plumb line. Now we're removing weight out of that shape by elevating each time as we're going up the head. So we're taking weight out, but we're not taking enough weight out to start layering the hair down. So we're still stacking the hair on top of each other, but it's going to give it that nice little silhouette, the really good tuck shape into the look. Okay, hope that makes sense. And let's begin. So section in, and we're going to push her head slightly forwards again. And make sure she's sitting straight, she is. And we're going to go central section down the back and begin to work our shape across the guest. So section number 1 comes down very, very low into the nape of the lady. Hopefully you'll see this. I don't know if you're actually going to see this because it should be standing in the middle again. So I'm going to move out the way so you can see. And section 1, nice and low, runs in to there. Hopefully you can see that. And we're going to elevate and let the outline drop away and take off as much hair as you want to take off. Don't go too tight with it because you're going to start to compromise your line. Okay, then lower it down a little bit. Opposite side, do the same. So little steep triangle. And we're going to elevate. Am I in the way? I'm right in the way there. Go there. And we're going to elevate to the same point. Pick up your guide from the opposite side and run. Then cross check to make sure that the hair is square, which we are. And then we move on. Okay, so we're going to go same section and pattern the whole way forwards now. So left hand side, standing in the middle. And we elevate a tad higher, pick up the guide from the bottom and run the line.
Rob, do you bring it back into the middle?
I am bringing it back to the middle, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we're back into the center. Good question, actually, Steve. You want to into the middle. There's my guideline underneath and run. And then into my ends. If I stepped round now, you're going to see what that does later. Okay, we're going to do the bob with graduation, then later a graduated bob, just to show you why body position is absolutely crucial. Okay, like Suki says there, we're bringing it back into the middle here. So what we're actually doing is over directing to save length into the underneath. I've already cut my line. I don't want to be cutting that again. But if I'm in here and bringing everything back to the center where I am, and then I step to the right slightly because I get a bit lazy. If I step in without getting in the way, see how my fingers change where I'm standing. So my fingers are now pushing the hair into the side of the head. So if you want something really creative where you're going to be working solely on taking off these corners in the side, you're going to be moving around the shape, which is what we're going to do after this to just show you how important body position can be. Okay, so again, another section and back into the center, and your elevation is going to raise a little bit higher. So lift and tuck. See you tomorrow. See you on Friday. Bye bye. So we lift and tuck and back into the center. And again, off the right hand side, lift and run. Again, body in the same place. So it's quite a boring little technique. You don't move from one position and you're getting it done pretty damn quick because everything you're doing is just working boink, 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 all the way up to the top of the head and all the way forwards. Okay, so next section, everything back into that shape and start to run. So I'll find my section there and back into the shape and again off the top. Now we've got to a point now on the top where we don't want to come any higher than that, because otherwise it can run the risk of going a little bit too short or too close to layers. So we want to make sure that our elevation doesn't go too far towards 90 degrees, but our head's forwards as well. So chances of that happening is very, very slim because our head is really far forwards. So nothing to worry about in terms of elevation. And the opposite side, run the shape and connect. And again, over direct back, and run. And last little piece here. Anyone done a graduated bob at home yet? Or bob with graduations?
Yeah.
How'd it go?
Yeah, fine.
Good. Perfect. It's quite easy, really. They're not that difficult. It's quite a good haircut. There's
I
only
hate.
you do.
Yeah, I can't do them. I just, yeah.
Well,
I've done that woman's, didn't I? The one that came in and cut off her hair.
Oh,
Yeah, you've done that exact one, didn't you, Suki?
Yeah, that
Yeah, that's the one I done.
That was well good. How much she cut off loads, didn't she? She was down there and she went wallop.
Yeah, I know.
That was well good. So now when we come into the sides, we're going to continue this diagonal line forwards. Okay, so diagonal line forwards and everything back into this shape here. So again, run, and we can see the line now coming to connect with the overall outline that we created earlier. So we know we're not going externally anymore. Everything we're doing here is all on the internal shape. So back to the point and run. And again, back in and connect. And it's a big section, but I'll bring it because it won't reach. Last piece in the front.
Have you ever done a bob before, Rob, and fucked it up?
Oh yeah.
Sorry, you're recording this and I'm swearing, sorry.
All right. It's only going to us anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I've buggered up so many bowls. It's unbelievable. The worst one, I cut her hair way too short and cut her neck at the same point. So she weren't happy, but she still paid. Still made her pay. Be very careful when you're not making people pay. Because people try and get money out of you all the time, or they try and get like a cheaper deal or something. And there's always somebody who can do the haircut cheaper than you, but it's never going to be as good as how you guys do it. So if they try and get money out of you, then yeah, you've got to try and stop them. But if you cut their neck as well, give them
They won't be coming back.
give them a bit of a discount, maybe like 10% or something, but they might not come back. Yeah, you're right, Sam. But I've the only way you really learn fully how to do hair and get yourself out of trouble with hair is by making mistakes. I've made so many in my career, it's unbelievable. And which is why now I feel as confident as I feel, because I've done everything wrong. So when you do everything wrong, you get to a point where you think, well, it can't be that bad. Remember when I cut that woman's neck and cut her hair way too short? It's not as bad as that. So it's probably not a good thing to have as a comfort blanket that you've screwed up so many times, but you do. And people are aware that hair grows, so it grows, basically. Has anyone cut anybody yet?
Not yet.
Amputate my finger off.
Yeah, you always cut your finger off, yeah. Everyone will almost cut their finger off at some stage, but you will also all cut somebody. And when that happens, don't panic. It's a part of the job. Not a part of the job you want to visit very often, but it is a part of the job.
I poked someone in the eye today doing foils.
What, with your comb?
Finger.
Your finger? That's funny. What did they say?
It was fine. It was my dad's friend, and she's a hairdresser herself. I was doing her hair today.
Yeah.
She was completely fine with it, I think.
Oh, good. I had one where when I was a junior, we had to hold sections, and my stylist, he was really quick with his sectioning, but he had a problem with one of his haircuts. So I was holding this section for quite a long time, and it was coming from back to front, and my finger started here, and my arm was killing me. So it just started getting closer and closer. Turned out that I was standing with my finger on the corner of this woman's mouth, and I didn't really realize. And I went, oh, geez, realized, dropped his section and got told off. But I think I had my finger in her mouth for a good 2 minutes. And she just didn't say anything. I don't know why. I'd have said, let your fingers in my mouth, man. What are you doing? But yeah, she didn't say anything. So I was left standing there with my finger in this woman's mouth. So there's embarrassing things that happen in hair, but just get on with it. What can you do?
No, I
Yeah, I'm
think
starting to learn that
if
now.
you tuck someone's hair in the hairdryer's back end,
Yeah.
that's not good. There's no saving that.
Then you're in big trouble. I've
Oh, yeah.
done that before as well.
I've done that.
Yeah. How did you get it out? Did you tell her?
Yeah, thank God it was my friend.
That's right.
Yeah,
It's not so bad if it's someone you know,
Right.
is it?
Exactly. Yeah, you can get away with it. But this one was a client, and I held the hair, talking to her in the mirror, boom, just pulled the hair out. She didn't feel it, which is good. But
Oh, God.
the hair was an angle, so we had to go shorter. So there's your bob with graduation. You've got your line, which sits really nicely, your graduation, which sits up quite high, and you get that nice little tuck for the hair. The nice natural tuck gives you a nice little bit of volume, but tucks in quite heavily into the back. It is a really good shape, a really good technique for something when you're working with a guest who you don't have much time, or maybe they turn up late, 15 minutes late, and you've still got to do the haircut or do the service. This works perfectly. Don't mess around putting all your sections in. There's no point. That took us, what, 5 minutes to bang that whole graduation in? So yeah, just work that. Works perfectly. Any questions? No. If you do, write it in the box. If you don't want to write it in the box, then come over the top and over the speaker and let me know. Good.
Can you do my cutting assessments for me?
Sorry?
Can you do the cutting assessments for me?
I wish. I can't, unfortunately. You're doing them yourself. By the time you come back in, we're going to start smashing these haircuts out. When the clients come in, perfect. You'll be fine.
Rob, can I ask a
So Rob,
question?
I tried to do a shake
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago.
How'd it go?
I fucked it up
Why?
because I didn't know what I was doing. So then I just gave up. And then I said to it was my sister-in-law, and she said to me she wanted it shorter anyway. So
Yeah.
then I ended up just doing it the original way, and I got it right.
Okay. We'll go through the shake next week.
Yeah,
Can I
I'll
ask
have
a
to do it
question with
again.
about your cut, Rob?
Of course, Yuri.
So you see, when we put the layer in and we didn't section,
Yep.
is it by any chance that we can make it up that we put a next guideline in?
What do you mean?
So you know when you go through and you change the triangle bit and you're bringing it back
Yeah.
to the back to the center,
Yeah.
is it exactly to the center or just to the part of the first
Yeah,
one?
good question. Very good question. So there's the center. I'm coming back pretty much to
Yeah.
there. So
Okay.
yeah, we're not dead bang on that central point. Just
Okay.
boink, boink, boink into there. Okay.
Thank
you still
you.
want that square line in the back. It's a very good question. Actually, you still want that square line in the back, but we're going to around about there and there. So everything's
Okay.
coming into that point. Okay.
Thank you very.
Good. Seb, it's the fact that Rob last minute is sorry, I messed up haircut. It's life, isn't it? What can you do? You can't please everybody. And hairdressing is a tough job. It's a tough industry to be in. We're on our feet all day, and we've got to change our personality for every single person that sits in our chair. If you're talking to an old lady, you'll talk about the Queen, or you'll talk about what she was doing in the war, I don't know, or what she's having for dinner. Then the next appointment time, you've got somebody young, cool, and hip who's going out to a bar that night and chatting people up. You got to change who you talk to. So when you do balls up somebody's hair, don't worry. I mean, worry about it. Yeah, definitely worry about it, but don't worry about it. The hair grows and you fix it later. Is what it is. When you cut.
Yeah, but when you're a bloke, Rob, and you've got a woman on the chair, you can just flutter your eyelashes and she'll be all right with it.
Tell him, Suki.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I got out of a lot of situations by sort of chucking a bit of flirting in. So
Yeah, see?
yeah, old women love me. Old women. I've never screwed up an old woman's haircut because they just like me. So it's weird. Anyway, I'm going to give you, go and take a 15-minute break. Go and get a ciggy, or Sam, cook some potatoes again, I suppose. We'll cook the rest of the tea. I don't know what you're doing. And then back at past, and we're going to do a graduated bob. And the graduated bob, I'm going to blow dry fully, and then we're going to do the outlines because it's something quite jazzy and quite sick. So I'm going to pause the recording, and we'll be back in the recording. So this is going to be the graduated bob. So I break a lot of rules in this one. I break all the rules that you can possibly have, because I don't find the occipital bone section and the pivoting works as well as just doing it down the center and running your shape. Okay, but my idea behind this is to see, just show you guys how important it is to stay in the back when you want to keep length, and step round when you want to remove length. Okay, so my overall line is going to finish somewhere around about here, from lip line to jaw line, probably on the jaw if I can get it there. But we're going to do exactly the same process. So we're going to have our little triangular sections coming all the way through and all the way up the head. And each time, each section we're bringing into a different position. So wherever you want to create something slightly different, where your body is and where your shape forms and your over direction changes. So you'll find that our over direction is going to be an awful lot tighter in this shape here, and it's going to change quite drastically as to where we're moving to. So instead of coming all the way down to the first section, we're going to over direct back to the previous. Okay, so realistically what I'm looking to do is step round the side of the head. Where we were trying to keep all of this length down here beforehand, I now want to take all that length off, okay, which is going to run me quite tight into the sides. Really, the best part of this demo is at the end, once we've blow dried and we do our little sexy outline. Okay, so if we go again, and we're going to run our tight graduation. Okay, so central section down the back. Make sure that we have our nice clean lines and our nice clean sections. Where's my water? That's not even in the middle. 1 second. Make sure you are in the middle, which is important. And now we're going to go. Okay. So again, central section. I'm going to go well tight in here now. Okay, this is one of my favorite haircuts to do. So again, little triangular line. And my body's now not in the middle of the head. I'm going to step into the left-hand side slightly because I want to tuck all of that length away. Okay, so if we go into the side, so we can see, I'm now stepping into the left and taking all that bulk off there. Okay, and I want my line on the outline to be quite soft and quite messy. There's a messy looking haircut to start with. Until we're very finished at the end, this looks quite untidy and quite messy on an outline perspective. So secondly, run into the shape, and I'm going to step right across my central point and start to tuck my fingertips right into the nape area. Okay, and again, lift my shape and run. Obviously check that we're balanced in the center, which we are. Then we want to run the same balance all the way through. But if you see now, if I drop that down, you can see how much more untidy that bottom piece looks. It doesn't look a nice, clean, dead line. It looks a little bit messy, a little bit off, but ignore all of this, especially when we get around here, ignore it, right? Trust me, don't start thinking I've lost any line ability just by it being looking like a little bit of a mess, because it will start to sort itself out once we've blow dried, okay? So again, triangular section, run down, and I'm not gonna move back into the middle. I'm stepping right around my shape. When you step in, so when we're at the back, our fingers are controlling our line. When I step round here, automatically, without moving my hand or my arm, just moving my body, we start to tuck the knuckles into the side. Same thing happens when we're in here behind the ear with our fingertips. So if I step, I'm not gonna step, but I'm gonna do my stepping movement. We move ourselves round and start to tuck our shape, okay? So that's what we really wanna aim for now, is that we control our, we lose control of our outline. So I really wanna go nice and tight with this side piece here, okay? Check on my guide and run. And I can go a bit shorter there, so I'm gonna do that. And then right hand side, pin my shape and come again. If we push to this side so we can see, stepping right into the right hand side now. And I've lost control. So same technique, same process, you're just moving your body around. It's a real good tool you can use your body for kiting that, just by moving slightly to the left or slightly to the right, completely changes the way your haircuts come out. And sometimes it gets quite scary, because if you were doing this on a client, the next section you'll see perfectly what I mean. But if you're doing this on a client and you had stepped into the right or had stepped into the left, and you found what happens next, where I lose my line completely, you're really going to start panicking. But it's about staying away from that panicking point. So if we drop that down, you can see my line now starts to come up instead of staying flat down. So we're thinking, oh my God, what have I done? Just keep with it, because that is all outlines, and it's all outlines that we're going to do once we're complete at the very, very end, or once we've blow dried, okay? So again, left hand side, run my shape, and again, tuck myself down, step into the left slightly more, just to run my connection. And again, pin my line. I don't want to step in front of you, so I'm going to twist her around in a minute. And then I would step, but we'll twist her so we can see. And run my tighter shape. I can pull that all down in one section here. So this technique works perfectly well for somebody who wants their line to be a lot higher inside. So if they don't want something from chin line to, or from below the chin line to shoulders level, and they actually want something a little bit higher. You get a lot of ladies wanting their bob line on here, but their hairline's so low at the back that you can't start clippering away their hairlines. We can, but don't start clippering their hairline away. But you need to get from there to there somehow by lifting that line and keeping that weight in the back. So this is a perfect little technique for that. You can already see that my line is already lifting quite high in the side now, okay? So it's something that we can get a much cleaner shape, and then you just got to do something with your outlines, which is the most fun thing to do, I think. It's a very stressful thing to do, and you can always find more hair to cut, but outlines are perfectly weighted to see your technique and your overall control of hair. So if someone's got a really low hairline at the back and they want their bob line to be quite high, I would go in with something like this, but just obviously look at their hair texture, look at their hair density, see how short you can actually take the hair to, okay? So now you can see we're not over directing straight back into the middle. We're coming round the shape slightly. So where we were talking with Suki and Yuri before, where we had our technique and we were coming right back into the, almost into the middle to control that line and keep that length in this area here. We're now not doing that. By stepping round, I'm just keeping myself in a position where I can take as much weight and as much bulk off of those two side pieces. Okay, so graduation, if we lift up, graduation still sits quite high. We want this to be a nice high tucked graduation, nice and tight into the nape, but take all of this length from down here off. So now my outline can come round and hit into that point. Okay, so same technique, but we're now creating something completely different just by stepping to the right or stepping to the left-hand side. So body position and over direction is absolutely crucial to what you're actually doing. So where I always bang on so much about controlling what the client's doing and make sure she's in the right position. If you get a bit lack with your positioning, so you're staying in the same place, but her chair's spun slightly round and you ain't noticed it, you're going to bing that corner off there when you're doing a bob with graduation. So it's so crucial to be facing your mirror and making sure that she's always facing that mirror. If her chair tweaks slightly, your balance is going to be off. Okay, so really important to be in control all the time. And the technique stays the same, but it's just where we're standing and where we're over directing the hair to, which changes. So again, I'm stepping into the right-hand side, hair comes back into my shape, and now we can start taking all that length in the front, back into the look.
At the end result in both of them, what's the difference?
I will show you.
Oh.
You'll see the big difference when we're done. The difference is going to be the bob with graduation has a bob line and a tiny bit of tucking graduation. So it's the bob line with a little bit of something going on. The graduated bob is going to be tight with a really jazzy little outline coming in, but you'll see the difference. I've got another block over there which has got the bob with graduation on it, so you'll see a huge difference. Okay, but this is just a lot tighter and a lot more creative, really. That's a good question though, but there is a difference with a graduated bob and a bob with graduation, and it's pretty much what we're doing today. So again, stepping in, run my shape, and connect, and overall line, run, and last little pieces in the front. Come back to your line. Elevation stays the same, all very similar to the bob with the graduation, but just body position over direction change. So again, into the back. And last little piece from the front and in. Like that. Okay, so there's one side half complete. Obviously, we're going to lift a lot when we're coming into the outline look. But that looks messy, doesn't it? Looks really messy, let's be fair. I've got a big hole, and this whole line in the bottom is not very clean, doesn't look very tidy, but we're only halfway done. All we're focusing on is the internal shape, okay? We don't want to worry ourselves too much on the outline or get anything, get any panicking or anything coming in, because this is going to be a shorter look. So anything that we're not too happy with afterwards generally is going to be coming off when we focus on our outlines afterwards, okay? So again, from this side, if I go the opposite way, and again, elevation stays up to my higher point and will stay the same in there. And we start to step to the left ever so slightly and connect. And then you can see the guide running into the base of the look. Okay, I'll just bring this in quickly. Elevate. There's a big difference to this. I'm just thinking about what you asked there, Sam. Sam. There's a big difference to the way these both sit, and you'll really, this one is a very. I do this on a lot of older ladies, to be fair. It's very Sassoon. It's a very creative-y looking haircut, which you can also make look very classic. But an awful lot of elderly ladies like this because they like to have the graduation very high at the back, and a lot of old women, their hairlines are very low, and gentlemen as well. The hairlines seem to grow lower when they get a little bit older. So they want to have that really high, tight bob, but nothing too short like a blue rinse looking haircut that they used to have in the 40s. So I do this a lot on older ladies. And also if you ever get to a point where you're doing a shoot or a show, on stage work, this can work very well as well, okay? So base shape is in. I'm not too concerned if it's balanced. I think it's balanced, but I'm not concerned if it's balanced because I'm gonna take that length off anyway. It is balanced. Now, I'm gonna blow dry, okay? I'm gonna blow dry that because the internal look is what I'm after. Once it's dry, I can then come back in and do my outlines and do everything dry on an outline perspective, okay? So, I'm going to keep the video rolling. If you've got any questions, jot it into the chat bar for me because I won't be able to see you when the dry is on. I'll be about 10 minutes blow drying. So if you want to watch. If you don't, then dot about, do what you need to do. I'm going to wrap dry fully. So I'm going to use my 9-row vest brush. Where is it? Over there. I'm going to use my 9-row vest brush, okay? And literally just wrap dry the hair from left to right. I don't want any volume in this hair at all. I want it all to be so flat to the head that we can then create a perfect line afterwards, okay? So I'm gonna blow dry. Maybe iron it as well, probably iron it as well. Nice and flat. Handles down, very important, handles up. Handles up, it looks too scruffy. It looks like you're just throwing the hair around. Even though you are, handle down, looks a little bit more in control. Dryer stays quite far back as well. If the dryer is too close, you're just going to burn it. So keep the dryer nice and far away. And start working your graduation down, off to the left, off to the right, and run your shot. So your blow dry is the most important part here. You've got to make sure the blow dry is perfect. If it's not, your line's going to be off when you go, and your graduation's all going to be off when you finish as well. Ooh. So, I was going to iron through quickly. And then we shall work upwards. So, with ironing, change your comb because if it's wet, obviously you don't want to be ironing with a wet comb. People would normally section down the back and split their hair like you would do with your lines, but the hair's still warm after blow drying. So if you do split the hair down, obviously down the middle of the back or the center back, and then run your horizontal sections away, you're going to find that you set the hair into place there. So when she walks out the door, it'll look perfect, but when she walk out the door, the wind will blow it from the back and the hair's going to split. Okay. So I always work from the side, so work a little round section into behind the ear, and then run that same piece from the back of the ear round to the center back of the head, and then come back to the opposite side at the front and control your shape from the front again. So you find that this way gives you a much cleaner and a much more head-hugging softness when you come to ironing hair through or finishing the hair off, okay? So nice size sections, nice and slow. Don't worry about going over it slowly or going over it a couple of times, because you're going to use your protective products and you're going to want to get the hair dead smooth. So if you go really quick and go over it like once or twice, it's not really going to do anything. You need to make sure that the hair is getting as hot as possible, and then you only run over it a few times when you do, okay? Continue. So again, run your shape. Control. So you start to see that my outline looks incredibly messy. All of the outside external shape looks incredibly messy, but we will come through in 2 seconds. About 2 minutes, not 2 seconds, and completely reshape the whole thing. So half your haircut is done wet, half your haircut is done dry. And the most stressful and exciting for me part is doing your outlines. Okay, so look how messy that looks. It's horrible, isn't it, at the moment? But it will change quite drastically very soon. Also, please do ignore the color. I don't know whose block this is, but the color of it is dreadful. There's a few bleeds and things, and you will see quite a heavy weight line, because the way my weight line sits is where the color begins. So it will look like it's got quite a heavy weight line, but it is quite soft. So up to the center back. And your blow dry as well. If your blow dry is strong enough, then your ironing takes like 2 minutes. It really doesn't take too long. All you're really doing is completing the way the hair sits and making sure that everything is as smooth as it possibly can be. So never sort of substitute a good blow dry for getting the irons out. A lot of the time, if you've got some kinks in the hair, you won't be able to get rid of those kinks with the irons. So run it from a dead wet blow dry, and you'll find that your ironing is so much easier, and the hair will sit beautifully and just run around the face. If you neglect your blow drying, you're in big trouble. You're never going to be able to get something that sits perfectly well with the irons. Okay? There are a few tricks that I will show you when we're next in, when you're ironing. So there are some little cheats that you can do when you're ironing hair smooth to basically get the hair sitting straight. And that sounds weird because you just think, oh, just just straighten it, but sometimes it doesn't go dead straight or flick the way you want it to go, which is the most important thing. So I've got a few little techniques that can help you if you have neglected your blow dry and you need something sitting in a different position. I've got a few ways to do, so we can show you that when we're back in. I can't do that on video. You can't really see that on video. So I tried when we were in first lockdown, it just didn't really work. So we'll do that when we're back in. Okay, last little bit in the back, and then we're good to cut again. Press. Chunky old highlights these. So now back to another comb. Yellow. So hair sits long in the front. I'm not going to keep it that long. We're quite steep, and then the internal graduation, obviously ignore the colour down there, that's terrible. But, the externals look awful, but the internal graduation looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. And now we're going to do outlines. Okay, if your client don't want the hot iron, what can you do? Good question. If she doesn't want the hot irons, which is very, very, very frequent. Most people don't like the irons on their hair. If you get somebody that doesn't, blow dry better. You're gonna hate to hear that, Yuri. Your blow dries are good though, but get that round brush out. Yeah, if you don't, hang on a sec. If they don't want the irons, your blow dry has to be perfect, which is quite tricky to do, but you'll get there. Just keep practicing, practice, 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 practice. Even I'm still practicing on my blow dry. You can never be perfect. Okay, so outlines. I now need to see where I'm going. So I know I want to take all this length off here, and I know I need to get rid of this hole here. So what I'm going to do is plan a way to get from the center back up and round, and then into that point, and then run that shape into the front. Okay, so let's begin. So we're going to find the center back of the head, and I'm going to aim for my shortest point. Okay, I need to make sure she's straight so I'm not all over the place. And we're going to do a big Sassoon curve up and round. And into that point. Okay, so now we've got the basic line in, we can come in again and start to doctor our approach and really focus on getting that really smooth, clean line into the shape. Now, this is something that if you ask Leanne while she's here, or I don't know if anyone's ever met Frankie, she's another Sassoon stylist and Sassoon educator. This is something very popular, this sort of outline of Sassoon. For a lot of the shoots and a lot of the shows that we did as a company, is my head in the way there? My head in the way? Don't think so. A lot of the haircuts that we did as a company for sort of Salon International and other on-stage work and the collection launches, they had a variation of these jazzy outlines. My head's in the way there, isn't it? It's definitely in the way. They had a variation of these jazzy outlines and quite cool creative little vibes on the back and into the sides. And they really help to put a stamp on your work and a marker on your work. And it's something that you do very much a lot in sort of shoot work, show work, but also when you're doing client work, it's a great little tool to use when as I said earlier, they've got a flat hairline or a very low hairline and they want something quite high in the back, you're going to have to take that length in quite tight at the back. So to basically run a little dink in works perfectly well. And then it brings out the edginess in the person as well, which is quite sick. So we've run that line into the side, and now I need to take all of this length off that I wanted to get rid of. I've helped myself out really by over directing it back a little bit and not stepping too far round while we were doing our basic shape. I've helped myself out, keep a lot of length down here. So now I can come in and be quite aggressive with the way I run my line. So again, comb in, comb away. We don't want to use the comb anymore. And I'm going to be right in front of you. So I'm going to go this side. And I'm going to be quite aggressive with my shape. Right across the jawline with my line. And switch sides. Check that that sits nicely. And again, run in. Now you can work this as your disconnection if you want. Leave that little front bit longer, disconnection. Voila, you've got your assessment. I would say probably don't do that. If you want to come from the opposite side as well, you can. And then with the points of your scissors, just run that final piece in to your shape, into your line. Okay, so it sits really quite sweet on the line and connects everything into that back section of hair. Now, if I gently push her up, see the line fully. Ooh, could be a bit cleaner. Oh, right on camera as well, that's not good. So again, lift just that little bit in there. So you can spend hours doing this. You're always going to go back and find some more that could come off or maybe needs to come off. Most important thing to do is know when to stop. Okay, so one side's in. The difficult part comes now when you've got to match that. So let's give it a go. So you see the difference there. That side's dreadful and that side looks absolutely fly. Do people say fly these days? Don't people say fly no more, do they? Banging, probably better. So let's connect this side now. So we now know we've got our central point, okay? And we are going to run the opposite way. Oh God. Sorry, 1 second. I've just plugged up this side. There. Oops. So I won't show you this side anymore. I'm going to keep this side over there.
You mucked it up, Rob.
I've cut a bit too much. I've got a bit too scissor happy. On that side, stay in that side. Right, now we've got to connect. So you can either come from down low and up. I find that too difficult myself. So I like to come from high and low, but that's very difficult too. This is a bit tricky. So find your central point again, and I'm going to go this way because I've started. No, I'm not. I'm going to come this way. So come from in high and just aim down for, again, your central point. Get your rough line in, and then you can start. Is my head in the way? Nope. And then start running our shape in again. Okay. So really, really good tip is just to use your mirrors. So your mirrors around you are not just there for your client to sit and look in the whole time. You can check your balance in the mirror. You can check your fringe balances in the mirror. Everything like that you can check in the mirror. But also if you spin your chair round and have a little look at the hair from the opposite direction in the mirror, you've almost got a little bit of a more, you've got a little bit more of a distance between yourself and the guest's hair. So when you're up close to it constantly, it really is quite tricky to see something new. You're looking at the hair all day, like it's ridiculous. So a little bit of a further distance from your client gives you a much, much cleaner finish. And then again, we can now come in and be as aggressive as we were on the opposite side to just run this line from back to front. So again, I think I'm in around about there. Luckily, we're on a mannequin, so if it does all balls up, then she's not going to have to complain. And I'm not going to have to think of an excuse of why she's got to pay still. That's more important. I don't care if she complains as long as she pays. And you'll all get to that point in your career. Can you take much off that? Can you take much off that? Yes, you can take as much off as you want. Absolutely. As long as you're confirming that with your client, first of all, in your consultation, take as much as you like. Completely up to you. I see it as the guest's hair is yours while she's sitting in your chair. So as long as you've confirmed with her what your idea is, and she's confirmed with you if she likes the idea of your idea or likes the sound of your idea, be my guest. I mean, do whatever you want to it. As long as she's going to be knowing what she's getting at the end, you can do whatever you want to do to her within reason.
I know why you're laughing.
You got to be a bit careful, yeah. They're only coming for a haircut. I'm going to shut up because it's recording.
Well, you're proper digging yourself a hole there, Rob.
Yeah, man, it's recording. I'm going to have to cut that bit out. I don't know how to do that though. If any of you know how to cut things out of videos, let me know quick time. Right, sweet. So length is in, and the back seems quite good. Are we balanced in the front? Balanced enough, I suppose. Ooh, yeah, naughty. So in the front, we've got, I'm going to style her off actually, because that doesn't look great. These hairlines, anyone got one of these blocks? The hairlines on these blocks are terrible, aren't they? They're very jumpy, which is not good.
Are you blaming the block for the haircut?
Yeah, I am actually. No, I'm not. The haircut's all right, but just the hairline on the block. When you come to do fringes in a couple of weeks' time, of full fringes and proper working our fringes in, you'll see what I mean by the blocks. They're a bit funny. But if in doubt, blame the block or blame the client's hair. That's always a good one. Good. So lengthwise in the front sits well. Length in the side comes up and connects. And then as we work around the back, we've got a nice little thing. Oh, that's not balanced, is it? There it is. Is that balanced? Would you say that's balanced?
Can't really see properly.
It's pointed.
It's what?
Pointed.
It is pointed, yeah. It's meant to have a point, yeah. I mean, it's pointed, and then round to the other side connects quite well. So this is a lot more of a creative little look. You've got your internal graduation in here, which sits quite nicely. Everything sits really, really well. It has that nice little combination of softness. If she wants to wear it down quite flat, you can wear it flat and have it really sleek and quite sexy and sassy. But also when you come into your outlines, it just gives you that little bit more of a zhuzh to have something. If she goes out, she starts partying. Perfect. Still sits back quite nicely, yeah? So you've always got that outline approach to run off. If you've got something really clean on your outlines and something quite soft internally, she can headbang all night. And then still have a perfect haircut, I suppose. So yeah,
You're
perfect.
losing the plot now, Rob.
Huh?
You're losing the plot now.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that's noticed that.
Not having anyone here. I don't like not anyone being here. It's weird. But hey ho, so that is your bob with graduation and the graduated bob. Now, the bob with graduation sits something like this. So you've got, this is a very light amount of graduation. So you've got your bob line, and then you've got your little bit of graduation thing in that whole shape in. This is very, very little about our graduation, but all sits perfectly and all sits down to have that nice little movement. And the graduated bob has a much more sort of solid and tailored approach to the outline, but still internally has that. If I go off that stand, it's probably a good idea. Jeez, but has that, still has that zhuzh and softness. So when it comes down, your line work is crucial. So when she does go out and she's getting herself all over the place on the booze, she can then have that thing sit back and it still looks beautiful, whether you've got your bob with graduation or your graduated bob. Okay, so most importantly, if someone's got a low hairline and they want their line to be quite high, go with the graduated bob, or they quite like that little zhuzhy, jazzy little outcome on the line, then perfect, it works absolutely brilliantly. But if they want to have something a little bit more like a banker, someone at HSBC head office, or a health and safety executive, she could be, couldn't she? A little bit more of a play and a little bit more of a cleanliness. Okay, that's all I've got, unfortunately. What's the time? Oh God, it's only 6:30. Okay, I'm going to